You wonder at me, a Roman soldier so far away from Jerusalem and alone? My friend, you wonder no more than I myself, for the happenings of the last few days are enough to water the courage of any man. Oh, but I see that you have the dust of the road upon your face, and you've come from afar, so you were not in Jerusalem, and you do not know. But I tell you this, the world has been turned upside down. No, I have not taken leave of my senses, but it would be of no great surprise if I had. You see, I was there. I saw the darkness descend upon the city at noonday. I heard the thunder, and I felt the earth shake beneath my feet. I was in the company of soldiers that took this Jesus in. You might have heard of him. Called himself King of the Jews. Oh, and we had such great fun with him. I placed a crown of thorns upon his head, while others threw a scarlet robe about his shoulders, and when the crowd clamored for him, we led him out in his kingly robes. I was astonished at that crowd. There's no explaining those strange Jews or their stranger God. And I tell you this, I saw no fault in him. He seemed harmless enough to me. No offense to you, of course. But when the cry went up, crucify him, crucify him, I shall always remember that ringing in my ears. A soldier gets used to blood and death, and I am no exception. More than once, I have warmed my blade on human blood. But I tell you this, I was finished with this whole affair before it ever begun. There was no need to guard him as we walked him up the hill to Calvary. He made no move to escape, and as I think about it, it seemed as though he had been born for this very hour. Oh, and the cross was so heavy, he stumbled under the weight of it. And that's when the captain ordered a passerby to carry it for him. I would have liked to have carried it for him, but instead, I helped nail him to the cross. Then we hoisted it into the air, while others were casting lots for his clothing. There was a small group of men and women standing over to one side, looking on with longing eyes and weeping silently. I took them to be his friends, his followers, and relatives. But that blood-thirsty mob of jackals continued to taunt and rail at him. If you have built a temple in 3 days, do it now, they cried. You've saved others, yourself you cannot save? If you are the Son of God, come down off that cross and prove it. I tell you that I would not have been surprised if he had come down off that cross and killed every one of them with his bare hands. But forgive me if I've rambled on. My mind is all jumbled up. You see, I have seen great men die before, and I've seen others cry like babies, and others curse bitterly. But never have I seen one such as this. His face was twisted in agony, yet he never spoke a word of complaint. They spat at him, they cursed him, they threw dirt in his face, and yet he never complained. One could see the blood dripping from his hands and from his feet and from that crown of thorns. And you could see that he was exhausted. But he lifted himself up on that cross with what seemed like superhuman effort, looked up into the heavens, and with a loud voice said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That stopped them. That struck them dumb, for in his voice came a tone of great authority. They just stood there, not knowing what to do. And then The cry went up again. That's when the darkness came. It descended from the heavens and seemed to envelop the whole city. It was a strange and spooky darkness, nerve-wracking. I could scarcely make out the dying figures on the crosses. I'm not sure just what did happen after that. I was standing guard when the earthquake struck. But I tell you that it seemed as though the earth had been shook with a mighty hand. Houses were ripped from their foundations. The earth parted and great cracks appeared. The rocks on Calvary's Mount were split in two as though they'd been hit with a giant cleaver. I was so frightened. It seemed by comparison that I had never been frightened before. I couldn't think. I couldn't reason. I was suddenly overwhelmed by the overwhelming urge to flee. I turned and stumbled blindly away, wanting only to get away from that cursed spot as quickly as possible. So, don't ask me how I came to be here, or when this all happened. You see, it might have been yesterday or the day before. I do not know. How can one measure the length of time when his very own soul is burning within him? When God himself was placed on a cross. I tell you this, as a Roman soldier, I was there. I saw the darkness descend upon the city at noonday. I heard the thunder, and I felt the earth shake beneath my feet. And I know that this Jesus, whom we crucified, was the Son of the living God. You smile at this? You make light of the fact that God was murdered? You Jew, how dare you laugh in the face of a Roman soldier? Your hands, they're pierced. It was you. You're alive. Oh, merciful God.